Welcome, everybody, to Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Andrew Phelps. Andrew is very distinguished. He has won Arizona's 35 under 35, and he is very involved in user experience, looking at how do you really help companies in terms of building their companies, using SaaS for product strategy and design. So he has worked with startup companies, he's worked with entrepreneurs, he's worked with people in various levels of organization. And I'm really happy to have you because I think when you think about user experience, first of all, I think we better talk a little bit about what is that. It's hard to understand how does that really fit into legacy building, and I think it can fit so beautifully because it's the element that often we miss. So if you would start, Andrew, by just talking a little bit about what is UX in the user experience. And I'm fascinated, how do you get into a field like this in the first place?
Definitely by accident. It's a fairly new field. When I started as a user experience designer, there were not very many job listings for UX designer, on LinkedIn or anywhere you were looking for a job. So user experience design is a small section of what's called customer experience design, which is the design of everything your customer interacts with. User experience design is the small part that deals with the things that are digital, the things that you see and interact with on a screen. So apps, software, websites, all the things that you play with on your phone were put together by a user experience designer. So our firm specializes in user experience design and user interface design, which is all the pretty colors, buttons, look and feel that sits on top of the user experience we've designed.
So who seeks out your services? When do you need somebody like you?
Well, anybody with a digital footprint of any kind needs help from a user experience designer. For us, we really specialize in product strategy and design. So software as a service products or web products, many that you use online, we call them websites, but a lot of them are applications that have a ton of different functionality and power. And delivering those functions to a user or a human being is a challenging process that the goal is to make something as easy to use and as intuitive to use as possible. It's all about meeting a user's expectations and then exceeding their expectations so something goes beyond a good product and into the zone of great product, where maybe something catches your attention, surprises you, delights you, and brings you into the moment a little more. So the companies that come to us usually have a product. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the companies that come to us usually have a product that needs to be designed or redesigned. And we really specialize in kind of building the 2.0 version of different products. That's where a company has a bunch of users or customers on their product. They know what's working, they know what's not working, or maybe they don't know what's working and don't know what's not working, but they know that it could be improved, and we could dig through everything to create kind of the next iteration, the next version of the product that's going to meet all their goals.
So in today's world, with all the products out there, really understanding what how the user experiences a product, it seems to me, creates a greater efficiency about what it is that a company does. What's the process that you go through? So if I come to you, Andrew, and I say, I've got a product and I want to just blow it out of the market. This is what I know. Where would you begin? What do I need to think about in working with user design or the user experience?
So one of the things, user experience design is the process. It's not the end product. So in engaging with us, we would educate you and lead you through the process. And it's a collaborative process of research and empathy and understanding our users. Again, it's the cold but technical term for the human beings who are our customers. Understand who they are, what they want, what their pain points are, what really excites them. And if you can walk a mile or 1,000 miles in their shoes, you can get a good idea of how products could be improved for them. And it's never hard to find the glaring issues. It takes a lot more digging to find the smaller things that could be improved or simplified. But it's really a collaborative process that involves a lot of conversation with customers, a lot of conversation with stakeholders. So folks in the organization at the highest level, all the way down to the folks on the front line who may be dealing with customers on the phone. And a huge piece of the process is playing that middleman in organizations. So the executives and the folks on the front line are aligned in the project's goals, how our customers feel, and creating a united front so we can move forward in a united direction to make improvements to the product that are going to satisfy everyone's goals.
You know, coming out of what we've just come out of in our country, and actually all over the world with COVID, there isn't a country that hasn't been impacted by this, really. I think companies are going to have to look at how can they get their message out, how can they do what they're doing more efficiently, more effectively, and more targeted. Am I right, or what is your sense?
Well, I'm about as lost as anyone else. I think that a big piece of the economic collapse was a bubble waiting to happen. So I'm not sure how closely it was related to the virus, but that doesn't mean it's going to be any easier to get out of. But I think what it means is that certainly companies will be accelerating their timeline to become virtualized. So I think that people working remotely, what was going to happen over 5 to 10 years will happen over 1 to 2 years looking forward. And then from a customer perspective, the market's going to change a lot depending on the everyday economic status. People feel and spend differently. And so companies will have to adapt to what their customers need in any new era. So I think a huge component of that will be digital, but I'm not sure if it'll be any more digital. I imagine a lot of the problem solving will be the same, just for different specific issues.
So looking at that, what will be some of the biggest misconceptions that companies have that you're going to have to work around or work through with people? Because I think we all have biases, don't we? And I think right now people are probably groping for more of those quick fixes, and user experience certainly isn't a quick fix. It is a fix. So what are the misconceptions that people might have?
Well, there's a lot of misconceptions about user experience design. I think one, that it's a quick fix, like you said. And I think understanding what the timeline for software is, right? A quick fix can be done in a month or 2 months, but that's the time it takes to understand your customers at even at a surface level, to start to make intelligent choices about how to make changes. I think the other is that a user experience designer can make a good product out of nothing. The reality is that the design process can make good products great, and it can make subpar products good, but you can't just walk into the office and say, I'm going to make a great product today. You have to be solving a problem. There has to be a need. There has to be a product market fit. And design can go a long way to making a good product great, but it's really hard to turn nothing into something. So I think one of the big misconceptions is if someone has an average piece of software with almost no customers and they want to compete with the biggest competitor in the market, it's just, it's kind of a moonshot when it's not offering anything special or different. So what we like to do is help people think in realistic terms and take calculated risks. I love risks. I love going bold, but I love taking calculated risks rather than uncalculated risks.
Wow. I think more and more coming out of this, people are going to be cash strapped. I think for a while there may be government assistance, but there will be a point where that access to capital might be more difficult. And so we're going to be looking for different ways in which to really grow our businesses and to look at what's next. And so you're absolutely right, looking at how do we do that so it's not a quick fix, but it's a meaningful fix, is going to be really, really important. Who's your ideal customer? If you could choose who to work with, and you could line up 10 companies, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, so our ideal customer, I'm lucky enough to have a few of them right now, but they're folks who are engaged in the process. So they want to share everything they know about their product and company. They understand they're open to what we're doing and why we're doing it, to learn more about their product and company from an outside perspective. They love to share their ideas. They are open to hearing other ideas, but they're also good at making decisions and working as a team. So one of the hardest things about the process is that the folks involved in software are usually highly creative, highly intelligent, really interesting people. And a lot of times those folks have strong, strong opinions. And navigating those strong opinions and creating a plan that's a united front is one of the hardest pieces of the process, but it's also what makes it so rewarding. And so understanding we can, saying we're doing this idea now, I love that idea, but it doesn't work right now because of this. Let's put it on the list for the future. You can start to create a plan. And one of the best things about product design in the software world is that it's iterative. There's always a new version to be planning and building. So ideas can be tabled for later. They can be slotted in when they make the most strategic sense. And you can really build the product to meet the short-term business goals and the long-term business goals. That's one of the most fun things about it. So ideal clients are people who believe in the power of design, willing to participate in the process, and willing to make decisions based on the data. So a big piece of what we do is take our designs to users and test them, interview them about what they think, watch them use it, even though they don't know they're being watched, so we can see where they're stuck or what's confusing. And you always get the best suggestions on the little details from users who test your designs. They'll say, you know what, this label doesn't really make sense to me. I think this button should say this. And then it clicks, and we've been working on it for weeks, and our team of smart people didn't realize that there's just a better word for that button.
Wow. Tell me, you have your ideal customer, you have your process. What's the impact on my bottom line? It sounds like a lot of money that could be spent. The question is, how will it impact me? Where is the ROI? How do you determine it? How long does it take before you start to see that benefit to the bottom line?
Well, that always depends, right? And the software, so I'll give you an example of customer-facing software from very early in my career. So this is an example I like to use because it's not for an enterprise company. It's for someone who had a side business. He created a healthy meal delivery company before that was a cool thing to do. And he made healthy meals out of his home and delivered them here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And I met him, and he hired us to redesign his website. And again, this is very early in my career. We were not charging a lot of money, but we dug through his website, his advertisements, and the process is very simple. So even as an inexperienced designer, we looked at his homepage, and you create a hypothesis. Well, I think this looks a little bit outdated. I think this looks a little masculine, considering that 60% of your customers are women. I think this is a little difficult to understand. I think the pictures of the food are small and don't look that appetizing. So you create a list of hypotheses that you can test. And so you redesign the homepage so it looks more appetizing, so it's gender neutral, so it's understandable what to do. And then a big piece of the meal delivery component was selecting all the things you like to eat and all the ingredients that you could or could not eat, which you could imagine is a lot of check boxes and kind of a boring process. So by the time people were halfway through checking things out, like, I don't know if I want to do this, and they'd close out, right? Well, one of the simplest things we did was tell the story of what you're going to get, how it works, and then the first step was put in your credit card. And so you made the payment, and you were committed, and then all of a sudden that 5-minute process of selecting ingredients. One, it was redesigned so it's easier, and you were unchecking things rather than checking things. But two, it changed the user's experience and perception of the process. And so In that example, he tripled his number of customers in the first 30 days with the launch of the new site. And then 6 months into the year, he quit his full-time job, and now he has a booming business with multiple employees. So that's a great example from early in my career. On the side with customers. On the internal side, if we're designing internal software, you can think about the efficiencies you find if you have a manager who's putting this spreadsheet into that spreadsheet, and they do it twice a week, and it takes 4 hours, and they got to send it to 2 other people and need approval. Building a simple piece of software that solves that problem ends up saving tons and tons of time for a large enterprise. So to understand the ROI, you need to understand the efficiencies that could occur internally, as well as the efficiencies that could occur in terms of acquiring new customers. And it's usually pretty easy to calculate exactly what the opportunity is.
Andrew, I appreciate your example about the food delivery service person that you worked with. I understand it was early in your career doing this. But I think for many people, when you think about user design experience, SaaS, it seems and feels like it's a big company approach. Your example is one of a small company, startup really, entrepreneurial company. So what percentage of your companies are big? How many are entrepreneurial that are small, like under $10 million, under $5 million? I think there's so many ways to group businesses. We think one way, under 10, from 10 to about 50, and then on from there. So what's your experience with that, and how usable is something like the user experience and what you design for companies when they're an entrepreneurial startup small business?
Yeah, so if it's a startup and they have no product, then we're not likely to work with them unless they have investor funding. There are plenty of great designers and firms that will work either for sweat equity or reduced rate, just because they love the process of going from nothing to something. And it is a lot of fun. So I do think there are resources. I think the important thing to note when you're a startup building something from nothing, user experience design is about the fundamentals, which means, not is it a beautiful polished product that looks like it was made by Apple, but when you click the button, does it take you where you expect to go? When you hit the other button, does it do what you need it to do? And did it save the time that it promised to save you, right? And so thinking on those very simple terms will help, a startup understand that it's an investment of tens or hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars probably, but it's not necessarily tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have been interviewing early stage SaaS companies to get a better idea of what you just described. And we found that the ones with the most traction who have raised some money are in the $100,000 to $200,000 range of investment in designing their product. That said, we have a number of products that we designed in our free time that we have enterprise customers on. So obviously we have the expertise to do it, but it doesn't mean it has to be a capital intensive thing. And to answer your question, I'd say a huge number of our customers are under 10 million, because I think even if you're making a 50 or 150 or a $250,000 investment in design or software, sometimes those efficiencies that you find or the ability it gives you to scale is just, 10 or 100-fold the investment.
It's so interesting, because I think until people really understand what's available, how you process that, they don't also know how to consume a service like yours that's available that could be really critical. Starting at the right point in the right place, people could save a tremendous amount of money because you avoid costly mistakes. And I think any of us that have been in business have made those mistakes, and we know the cost of going down the wrong road. And so much of it is not having the information, so you can really be wise about what it is that you do.
Yeah, I think our recommendation for getting involved with a firm like us would be to have 50 to 100 customers or more using your product. That's probably where we can come in and, at an early stage without spending a ton of money, help you understand, okay, these are the issues, and yeah, we should probably engage to redesign this because I think this is the opportunity. Or, you know what, you're doing pretty well where you are. I'm not sure what we would change. I think you really have a marketing issue, or you really have a sales issue, or you really have, a different operational issue. So I think one of the things that we like to do is move in increments of 10. So if you have a new product, your goal is to get 10 people using it for any price, and if you have 10 people using it, then you can start thinking about what to build next and how to adapt it. And then when you get, if that makes the improvements that you were hoping it did, then you wait for those next 90 customers. When you're at 100 customers, what's the next iteration of your product? So thinking incrementally and making sure that you're never going all in on one of your risks. You're taking risks to incrementally improve the product until the time is right where you may be held up and you really need to make a radical change to scale. And then it might be time to roll the dice, but that's still also not a great idea all the time.
Probably not most of the time.
Probably not.
One can suffer pretty badly from rolling the dice.
True.
As people look at the next phase in life and building a legacy for themselves or for their company or family business, how does something like user experience, using your boutique SaaS user experience company, have a role in that? Can it have a role, and how could that be?
So I think what's important about user experience is that it's a place where you are interacting with people. Whether there's a person there to interact with them or not, it's a touch point you have with your customers, the people you serve, whether you're a for-profit company or a nonprofit organization. All the digital things you do are still interacting with your customers. And, with so much, BS flying around the internet, it's easy to take for granted that this is just noise or visual noise or these things that are boxed to check on your list. But the reality is that these are experiences that people are having. And when you understand that and honor that and design them to be special and unique and genuine, it has an impact on your business. When people understand the person they talk to on their phone, on the phone, they had a great experience with them. They go to the website, they can find what they're looking for. It uses language that is aligned with the brand and is similar to the experience they had on the phone. All these things are assets for your brand and the entire customer experience. So I think a lot of it is the perspective you bring to it. If you understand how special it can be and honor its impact, and the reality is we all stare at screens all day. And so this is an important part of our human experience now. And to understand that and honor that is an opportunity to make things that are more special rather than just shake your head at how much time you spend on your phone.
Right. I think, Andrew, one of the things that strikes me as I listen to you is you're absolutely right. There's so much noise out there. There's so much hype and spamming that goes on that I think people have difficulty sorting and figuring out which voice to listen to. What I like about your description is it's very pragmatic. It's very targeted to the user. There's no hype. It is just, what is their experience and how do we address it? Right?
Right. Exactly. No, I think that's one of the reasons we like to leave the marketing to other folks, and we love to be part of that collaboration. But at the end of the day, it's really rewarding to make tools that help people. You talked about the return on investment, and okay, at this enterprise, we saved 500 managers 2 hours a week. Well, that's a lot of money, but it feels so much better to know that that manager doesn't have to do that stupid 2-hour task, and their week is a little bit less stressful or a little less full of drudgery, right? I think something that's really close to our hearts is how much of work is just grinding and really does, suck the soul out of you. And so I think that's one of the reasons that I'm personally passionate about software, is that it's a tool that can take some of that drudgery away and give you back energy for the creative things you enjoy, or the parts of your job that are far more fulfilling than copying spreadsheets or reformatting files.
You know, Andrew, I think coming out of COVID right now, just listening to people I've listened to, people are becoming much more tuned into where am I spending my time. They've been at home, they've tried to navigate working at home with children, with other demands, and the balls are in the air. Things that are worthless, meaningless meetings, for example, that don't produce a result. There's a new impatience for it that I'm hearing that we've not seen in the past. And so I think also with products, how a software or something is working, there's a new impatience with, please do not waste my time. I've got to move on and get on with things. So I think what you offer is going to be more and more important as we move down this road in the next several months.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I do think the principles can be applied to things beyond technology. When we start to consider the experience of our customers or our patrons or the people we serve, we can start to make choices to do those things better. And that doesn't have to be on a screen. That's just where my company and I tend to specialize.
So we have been talking for a little over 30 minutes now, and our time just goes so quickly. The question that I have for you is last thoughts that you have that you really want the audience to know about. And then we'll talk a little bit about how people can connect with you if they would like to connect with you and get further information.
Sure. Well, one of the things I like to share, because it's something anyone can do, is ask for feedback. Ask for feedback from your peers, from your family, from your friends. Ask for feedback from your employees. Ask for feedback from your customers. You can learn so much about the things you want to achieve just by asking for feedback from people. And that can be in a business sense or in a personal relationship sense. Try to get the pulse on how things are going, especially around the things that are on your mind or that you want to improve. It's one of the things that we do all the time in our work, but it can be applied to anything. I think the other thing that's been on my mind a lot and that I encounter a lot in corporate culture is courage, or the lack of courage. I have made it a personal mission to, spread the word that it's okay to be scared. And courage is not the absence of fear. It's facing a fear and making a choice to be bold and to say what you believe and to do what you think is right. That doesn't mean you should have a closed mind, but it does mean that you have the right to share what's on your mind. And it takes practice to be courageous without offending others or feeling the fallout. But I think there's incredible power in all of us to share how we feel, even if we know it's not going to be accommodated for by others. And so I think those are the two things that I like to share, and I think about a lot. If people want to get in touch with me, they can find me on LinkedIn, or they can visit our website, user10.com, which is just user10.com.
We will also, for those of you who are listening, have that available to you. So if you're listening in the car, whatever, and cannot write it down, just contact us and we'll be glad to get you in contact with Andrew. Andrew, thank you so much for your thoughts. As we leave, you're talking about being bold and courageous. I think those are the companies that are probably going to come out of this the best, because fear hasn't overtaken them and they're ready to move. So I appreciate that perspective that you share. And thank you so much for your thoughts and for what you do for businesses in general.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Building My Legacy podcast today. And we look forward to being with you again very soon. Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like,
subscribe, and click the bell button above. Leave comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And visit our other social media links as well. Thanks much.